Hey, this is Bud and Kevin and Bud.
12-2 podcast.
Yep.
Where we believe that people can be transformed even in this contemporary culture through biblical Christianity.
I love the way your eyes turned up like that when you said that. It's just added emphasis to the reality that we live in a crazy time.
We do.
Yeah. I told you there was a sermon series we did a few years ago. Tammy and I were going home one day, and I talked about something socially that day. And, and she said, man, I'm so glad you talked about that today. I said, why? She said, people just need to know that they're not crazy. And so I did a message series after that called You're Not Crazy.
You're Not Crazy.
But Kevin, craziness. How many
man.
people out there that are listening to us? Well, they have to be crazy a little bit to listen to us in the first
That's
place.
true.
Right?
That's true. But
but how many of them are feeling crazy because they're living in this alternative reality?
Yeah, where up is down, down is up, good is bad, and bad's good, and it's just completely and utterly just mind blowing. And this has been just a wild ride for the past year. I mean, in this whole political season, and it's still getting crazy.
So do you think? And we're getting this right into it today, aren't we? We don't have time to advertise your T-shirt today. I like it, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, what does it say? It says, mortify
thyself.
Thyself. Not just the self, thyself.
Yeah.
Which means myself.
Right.
I got you. Do you think, Kevin, that society's getting toward a tipping point? Are we realizing how crazy it is, and are we beginning to push back some?
I would have to say there are segments of the population that are just going. I mean, let's be honest. There was a time when we were kind of like live and let live.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what we found out, or what we are finding out, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
If you say live and let live, eventually the ones that you let quote unquote live are going to come to you and say, you better start participating or celebrating in us.
Right.
And I think there's beginning to be that we can begin to see that pushback. Mm-hmm. And it was especially when they started, I think, coming for the kids, the children, and they kind of threw off all pretenses of it. I think of that group.
So maybe that was a sort of a tipping point.
I think it's changing. Yeah, when you see that, that they're trying to justify, cross-sex hormones, sterilization of children, the garbage that they want to present in the public schools, the government schools to our kids and say, hey, this is normal, you know? And I think some of that got realized when everybody had to go home for COVID, and the parents were sitting there going, you're learning what?
Yeah.
Got to go over what?
Yeah. And I was listening to a show the other night, and they were playing a lecture by some secular psychologist, clinical psychologist now, a lady who is basically, and she's advancing the cause of pedophilia, and she's drawing a distinction between rape in the name of pedophilia,
right,
and normal, loving type attractions and activity and everything, in order to differentiate those. But obviously, we're talking about with children, right?
Correct.
They're a pedophile, right? And so there's just another angle that we're seeing being advanced in our society, unfortunately.
I'm just going to tell you that Satan hates innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Satan hates human life.
Yep.
Satan hates God. And he will do anything, since he can't get at God, because he tried that and found out what happened with that.
Yeah.
He will go after his creation. And I think within that, he's going after the kids, a heart.
Yeah.
And you see this desire, this almost desire and worship from the progressive left to sexualize our children. There's a great story. Corrie ten Boom talks about it. Her dad she talks about her dad one time, and she asked him regarding sex or something to that effect. And they were on a train, and he looked at her, and she was, a young girl at this particular time. And he says, when we got on the train, who carried the suitcase? And she said, well, you did, Dad. And he said, why did I carry the suitcase? She said, because it's too heavy for me. And he said, yes, like at your age right now, that question is too heavy for you to carry at this time.
Right.
And we've thrown off all of those restraints and have gone hey, at 5 years old, kindergarten. We want to start sexualizing these kids
Yeah.
and giving them things that they're not designed to handle. And what
Yeah.
happened with a time of innocence
Yeah,
in
right.
life?
Right.
It's just going away.
It's obviously just a means of conversion, right?
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's not that they're missing the fact that kids are not ready for this. They're exploiting the fact
Right.
that kids are not ready for this.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. And so it's the child conversion that is what they're trying to get to, right?
Right.
To a godless point of view perspective, and they'll use whatever tactics, right?
Yeah,
We kind
we
of
go back to the
the
tactic.
strategy and the tactics
Yeah.
they're going to use, and that's an example, right? The whole
Yeah.
pedophilia thing, and everything that we're seeing is just a tactic driving society toward the same end result.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I mean, they talk about so many times, and when you look back at it, you see that, the things that we tolerate in one generation will be celebrating in the next generation,
Yeah, yeah.
type deal.
Mhm.
And so I think that they just keep moving that line,
Mhm.
and now they're going after the kids by, you should just tolerate, the
Right.
person instead of calling them a pedophile, we call them minor attracted people or whatever the
Mhm.
case is,
Mhm.
and we soften that word to where eventually, it is celebrated.
And it kind of goes to show us, what you just said, that progressives play the long game.
Oh yeah,
They're good at the long game.
yeah,
and the patience and just a little bit of, I won't call it progress, it's really regress, right?
yeah.
I mean, I don't even know why we call it progressive. It's regressive when you get
Oh,
down to it.
definitely.
And so they're just setting things up for the future.
Oh yeah, and it's all about the destruction of human advancement and
Yeah.
human fulfillment and the ability of human beings to be able to go as far as they can,
Right, right.
that God had given them.
Right.
It's very interesting. You look at the garden where God gives us this beautiful garden, and He tells Adam and Eve, take care of it, be fruitful and multiply.
Mhm.
And when our focus is on that, we so many times you can see just human flourishing happen.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then when you take that away and you say, hey, there's no God in the picture,
Mm-hmm.
you see human flourishing collapse.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
you can see it in the world of art,
Yeah.
compare, the art from the Renaissance or something like that, where you have these beautiful sculptures and Sistine Chapel and all of that compared to some of this.
Art in those days of stuff that really existed.
It really existed.
Stuff that really is
Yeah,
there that
right,
we can
exactly.
enjoy because there's reality baked
reality
into it.
there. Yeah. And to some of the art, I mean, just go on social media and look at some of that art where it's some guy dancing around with a stick of butter or something, and that's somehow art. It's insanity.
That's pretty good. But you did say something I think that I don't want our listeners to miss. It's the point that when you said that the goal is to try to keep people from going as far as they can go in terms of being who God planned for them to be.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that we get fooled by, terms like opportunity economy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and I think you've got a story that you're going to bring up here in a couple of minutes. It's going to be somewhat related to the idea of something going without God, setting
Right.
aside faith, right?
Right.
But the point of the matter is that the Bible is very clear that you can go no further in who you are than to identify with the person and the purpose and the plan that God created you with, right?
Correct.
God's already planned for you to go as far as you can go.
Right.
I mean, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that really
Yeah.
the case? And we fail a lot of times to accept that reality. Even Christ followers who fall for, just whatever. We've talked about in our church recently the statistic around 40 million professing Christians not voting and another 15 million not even being registered. I mean, how can you fulfill being whoever God you created you to be if you're not participating in, something governance? No, and
Right, in the
under
country-
God's theocracy.
Right.
Right.
But in the country that God has placed you in,
Yes.
where you have the opportunity to participate in the direction of the country.
And so many don't.
And
You have been to numerous countries
Yeah.
where that does not exist. Because I know you've been kind
Yeah,
of sort
yeah.
of a globetrotter kind of
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. So, and it's just mind blowing that you would give that up, that you would cede that and say,
Mm-hmm.
no, even though God has placed me here at this time,
Mm-hmm.
in this country, in this family, in this state, and that means he doesn't want me to participate in the government he's placed me under.
Right, exactly. I mean, and that's just one of the avenues where we fail to recognize that God has already provided everything we need for us to get to where we need to go.
Right.
In terms of who God wants us to become.
Right. Yeah. And what we'd also have to realize, and I know they throw around this Christian nationalism word, and they do that in order to kind of suppress, you don't want to be a Christian nationalist, so you shouldn't be.
And Christians are the ones who were the first ones to do that a lot of times, right?
Yeah. But you're going to follow something.
Yeah, exactly.
And somebody's morality is going to win. Is it going to be the naturalist morality, the Marxist, the socialist morality? Or do we truly want to live under a Christian morality, which is the basis? When the guys were writing when our founding fathers were writing the Constitution, they were basing it on Christian principles,
right? Exactly,
because they were looking back in time and saying, "Hey, look what works really well."
So really, Christian nationalism is not the same in the United States as it would be in Russia, modern day Russia, or Nazi Germany, right?
Of course
we don't want Christian national. We don't want anything nationalistic there, right?
Right.
But like you said, we have a nation that still has the remnants, at least,
right,
of the tenets of the faith of a Judeo-Christian approach.
I mean, we still give credence to that Declaration of Independence where it says, "Hey, our rights came from our Creator, and those rights were life."
Or the thing, right? Or isn't that the new name for him? The thing.
The thing, right?
As the current president referred to him when he was quoting that. Right?
You know that thing.
Yeah, the thing. Yeah.
But our Creator and the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that whole pursuit of happiness is not how we interpret it today. It's not about being happy. It's about being able to fulfill what you believe you're called to fulfill, to live your life that you think will bring the most enjoyment to yourself or would be the most successful, most fulfilling. It's the opportunity to at least pursue that. You know, it's not a guarantee in happiness. And we see the president, I mean, the current vice president, Kamala, she continues to talk about that she wants, this equity, this equality, this equity of results, that everybody ends up the same.
Yep, we all are the same, and that's what the opportunity economy is.
Right,
what she's talking about. It's the opportunity for those who don't have as much for whatever reason.
Right,
and certainly some people don't have as much unjustly.
Oh,
but
correct, definitely.
There are many that don't have as much. Justly.
You're right.
Right, exactly.
It's to do away with the complete idea of meritocracy.
Exactly.
Work hard, get rewarded for it.
And we've already talked about the fact that government itself is probably the institution that has the least resemblance to a meritocracy in America. Right? Without question.
Definitely.
And so now we're trying to make all of America, all of industry, et cetera, like the government. And one day we're going to talk about this whole price gouging thing and the approach to combat inflation certainly has nothing to do with anything about price gouging.
Right.
This is just another way. It's a tactic to get to the goal of this equality of result or outcome.
Oh yeah,
that's really what it is. It sounds good. We're going to get your prices down. We're also going to drive all the companies that you get stuff from out of business, so you're not going to have anything to choose from anyway. But your prices are going to go down.
Prices will be low.
Yeah, they're going to be low.
That 4-pack of toilet paper will only be allowed to be $4.99. Of course, there won't be any on the shelf. So and we've all lived through that. It'll be already.
Yeah. Hey, fortunately, I was able to go when Walmart had that 2. They opened up at 5 o'clock or something for seniors. I had just barely qualified as a senior by then.
And so you were there.
That was one of those things you really take advantage of, right?
Yeah.
That and the Great Clips haircut discount. Those are the things. I get my money's worth.
Don't get that Great Clips haircut.
I do, man.
Not me.
Discount. Anyway. Well, look, you brought something up I think we need to talk about.
Right.
It was great. You mentioned it at church yesterday. And yes, we did go to church.
I sure hope I bookmarked this.
I hope you did too.
Uh-oh.
But it was a great story involving one of our favorites, Tony Dungy.
Yes, it was.
You can't help but love Tony Dungy.
Yeah, and he had. I
haven't agreed with everything with him politically in the past, but it's okay.
But it's okay.
This is a man of incredibly deep moral faith-based values and integrity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all know that last week, Kamala Harris, she basically said, one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and certainly Donald Trump, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. Now, of course, this was in reference. She was talking in reference to abortion. So basically, Kamala was saying that if you're a committed Christian, you should be okay with saying that, that a woman should be able to do what
they want to do.
What they want to do with their
Yeah.
body, right?
Yeah.
I will say that she does not mention at all the life of the unborn baby.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's
just shuttled away.
That's totally incidental
Yeah.
in
So
our world today.
yeah.
Right.
So Tony Dungy happened to reply to her, and he
Mhm.
said, "Dear VP Harris, I hear you make this statement all the time. Exactly what, quote unquote, faith are you talking about when you say you don't have to abandon it to support abortion? Are you talking about the Christian faith that says that babies are made in the image of God, that God places them in the womb, Jeremiah 1:5, and that we should not take any life unjustly? Are you talking about that faith or some nebulous general, quote, faith that says we're good enough and smart enough to make our own decisions? What faith are you talking about?"
Did he get a response from the vice president?
No. But that's also my question to the church.
Right.
Can we abandon our faith in order to vote for a ticket with Kamala, with the Harris Waltz ticket that is the most pro-abortion,
Most radical
that we have ever seen?
Right.
You thought the Biden Harris was the most radical with abortion. You ain't seen nothing.
Exactly.
If Harris and Waltz get in.
Right.
Because, okay, first of all, Waltz signed a thing that basically said, they are for, let's just be honest, they are for abortion at any time, during any pregnancy, at any moment, for any reason or no reason at all.
And these are the first ones, really, who, from a policy perspective, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I may be misspeaking on this a little bit. I think that this is the first ticket that is actually taking abortion all the way and making it as and advancing it to, advancing it to infanticide.
Pretty much.
Which would be, infanticide is basically what Herod did.
Right.
When he found out that Jesus was born in Bethlehem and he wanted to kill all the kids under 2 years old.
Right. And we say that, yes, they don't specifically say that they want to kill babies after the moment of birth.
They don't.
But they do, what is true, if you look at what Waltz signed.
Tell us about what he signed. That was an important piece of legislation.
He signed a legislation from the state that basically said you could have an abortion at any time for any reason up to and including the moment of birth.
Okay. Which is like when your body naturally delivers
you
the
could
child.
Say, right.
Or not your body or mine, but
right,
a woman.
Right,
Let's get that straight. We totally believe that it is only a woman.
She did use the right pronouns when she was talking about that, because she said her.
Okay,
so
well, that's good.
That's a win, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
But it also included the fact that if your minor child wanted abortion, you did not have to notify the parents, even though that would be a major major decision, number one, and a medical procedure that could have detrimental effects on the life of your child, but they didn't have to notify you. It also changed the language so that a baby that survived an abortion procedure would not have to necessarily receive emergency medical care as if it was a live baby. So, which allows that gray area that if they botch the abortion and the baby's born alive, they don't have to administer life-saving care.
And that's the first step in infanticide.
Oh, yes, it is.
Without question.
Right.
So, again, it's kind of like you said earlier, what we tolerate in one generation, we celebrate in the next. Who knows where that is going to go, right? With, moving into the future.
Yeah.
Kids that are born with handicaps.
Yeah.
Right?
If you look at Iceland several years ago declared that they had cured retardation with birth or whatever, kids that would be born with mental handicaps, because they test every single pregnancy. And if it is not a perfect, if they can detect that it has a mental handicap, they
force the abortion.
So therefore,
Oh, that's a cure. Yeah.
They cure kids that are mentally handicapped. So and they declared that, and they boasted about that, and this was 10 years ago, or in the last decade that they have done that, and so we can see that that's where they're headed. And this is the first time that they have taken and put this at center stage. She has made this her hill to die on. She is, if you elect her, she says that you will have complete autonomy over your body when it comes to an killing of an unborn baby. So let's be clear.
Yeah.
You don't get complete autonomy of body, even though that's what she says, because she says, the government shouldn't be allowed to tell women what to do with their own bodies, right? But we don't hear her saying, well, we should do away with DUI laws when it comes to women.
No, that's the
we don't hear her saying
alcohol, right?
Yeah. Well, we don't hear her saying you should do away with all the drug laws,
right? Sure.
And you don't hear her saying away. I mean, if a woman wants to take her body and use it to body slam her child, shouldn't she have the right to do that? Without the government intervention?
Yeah.
No, it's only the woman has the right to do with whatever she wants to with her body, only when it comes to the murder of an unborn child.
And so, Kevin, you say that and you describe abortion, the murder of an unborn child. But if we really step back and let's say we're space aliens, we're looking down on Earth and kind of analyzing what's going on, and we're thinking, oh my gosh, they're killing babies. You got to be kidding me.
Right.
Is there anything more diabolical and sinister and evil, and use all those words that you can think of, that Satan could think of than this thing called abortion? There's nothing that I can even, I don't think there's anything that I can even begin to imagine that could be any more. And this is the major, for progressives, this is the major political campaign issue.
Right.
This is it.
This is their sacrament.
Ever since Dobbs overturned the Roe v. Wade, right?
Pushed it back to the states.
And we saw it. We saw a lot of conservative politicians lost their seats in the midterms.
Right.
Because of this.
Yeah.
Because this, and all Dobbs did was turn the authority on this issue back to the states. Abortion was not made illegal.
Right.
And we have got a nation full of idiots who don't even know that.
Right.
They're listening to the rhetoric,
yeah,
which is being based up. They're pulling the eyes, which they do anyway. They're pulling the eyes over the public, making them think, oh, well, this, if you don't let me, abortion's not going to be legal, and da da da. No, it's just simply states' rights. And I know that you and I are states' rights guys. I'm a firm believer that things work better when they are governed or managed at a smaller level,
as close to the home as possible.
Yes, exactly.
Schools are better run if it's local than
Right.
it is even state, and then it is even federal.
Yeah.
For all of this stuff.
Yes.
So that we have a voice in what this is.
Yeah, we got to remember the 13 state constitutions were in existence before our constitution as a nation, right?
I have a kind of a story that, again, Kamala shared. And she used it as an example of see how terrible things are now that Dobbs has been overturned. Because as we know, when Dobbs was when Dobbs was passed, it overturned Roe versus Roe v. Wade. And if you listen to Kamala, she just tells us that all she wants to do is to go back. She wants to codify Roe.
Right.
She wants to pass legislation. But that is a lie, because Roe allowed for abortion up through the first trimester with no restrictions.
She wants to go a lot further than that.
She, of course, wants abortion for any reason at any time until up and including the moment of birth.
Yeah.
Okay. So she lies when she says that, but she also lies when she says, here, look at this example, this story of now that Roe's been overturned, women are dying in the streets. Because there was a case in Georgia that just occurred where a young lady wanted to abort her twins. She was in Georgia. She'd waited too long because Georgia has a 6-week ban After 6 weeks, you can't get an abortion. So she came to North Carolina in order to get her abortion. She failed to show up on time to the abortion clinic. So they couldn't fit her in.
I guess,
right. She had an appointment.
Yeah.
She showed up late. So they gave her the pill, the abortion pill, to them. They told her to take one right now and then one the next day. And this abortion pill, which they tout as safe and that we should be giving our children in high school without parental consent, it of course killed the 2 babies in her womb, but it did not get rid of them completely.
Right.
So
the body did not
naturally get rid of them. So parts of the baby were still left in the womb, which led to sepsis, which she went back to Georgia. And for some reason, the hospital, she was admitted to a hospital and they waited 12 hours for some reason to do a DNC. And unfortunately, she passed away.
Okay.
And so what Kamala says is that the fact, because the abortion in Georgia, Roe got overturned, so they only have a 6-week ban. That killed this lady. No, what killed this lady was a whole series of events.
Yeah, sure.
And it is sad that she lost her life, but it is just as sad that two innocent children lost their lives.
Maybe more so, just because of the full life
and so
lives that would have been ahead of them.
Right. Yeah. She is lying, using these stories to kind of garner sympathy and saying, "Oh, we need to codify Roe."
Right.
And
the whole emotion, the whole abortion argument is simply an emotional argument. There is no way to validate analytically, logically this thing that we're doing.
It makes it's the antithesis. You were talking about Satan, and I kind of thought, it's so evil because first of all, it kills innocent life. It also, a lot of times, it is a vulnerable young lady or somebody who is desperate, but in a desperate situation that now is party to that murder, and they have to live with the ramifications of that for the rest of their lives, and they are typically given no help by the abortionist to deal with that. So you have 2 people who, you have one that's killed and one that's psychologically most likely damaged in some way or shape, but you also are taking the natural instinct of a mother and turning it against the child.
Good point.
And that I don't care what you say, that is satanic in nature. Because we cannot. Mothers are supposed to take care of their children.
You and I both married women who would be, and some folks would call them helicopter parents at times, right? We were involved. Your mother's involved in our kids, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And could you imagine your wife not having that natural mother?
No, I cannot.
Which was natural. You didn't have to teach her that. Her mom, who has it as well, did not have to teach her. My mom, or my wife, she
mother-in-law,
has it naturally. My mother-in-law had it. It's natural.
It's natural.
And so what you're exactly right. So that does what you're presenting here, I think, is a reality. That what that does is that sort of suppresses and maybe even eliminates a lot of that natural motherly instinct that does seem to come as a result of how God created.
Right. So we end
starting with Eve.
So we end up celebrating, singleness, instead of families,
which is a lot of what we're seeing these days, right? With the desire not to have children.
It's amazing, what Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish. Taylor Swift, who has $1 billion, and so it doesn't matter who gets elected, she's not going to be impacted at all. These are two, singers, and their reason for voting for Kamala, one of their main reasons is because she's going to allow you to kill your baby.
Yeah. Or who are we?
It's mind blowing. And these are 2 young ladies that you would figure they would have a desire one day to be mothers, but.
And because of the gender confusion, right? The whole confusion about woman, man, et cetera. You can be whoever you want to be. You can create. It's just another tactic again to just it continues to facilitate this view on abortion. Right?
Exactly.
But we got to go.
Man,
now.
There's so much we could talk about, but
maybe next time we'll talk about a question I got yesterday about Trump's position on the abortion thing, as they say that it's changed, which I wouldn't say that it's changed. I think it has
Probably
been
more clarified on this
clarified,
Yeah.
right? But we would talk about that too,
Yeah.
just to make sure that we look at both sides.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Again, this is 12-2 Podcast. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, neighbors,
Yep.
tell people you don't like.
Yeah. Get a poster of us, buy a poster, put it up in your living room, whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, have a great one. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.